You're very proud of yourself, aren't you? Look, you got Travis dying over here.
Oh fuck!
It's so bad. I love it. Oh my god.
And for anybody who, who's paying attention, Jay will do this for you. He will make you any kind of intro you want. Dragon breathing fire all over your logo.
This is an ad read.
That was outsourced. Actually.
It was so goddamn loud, and but like in my headphones, it sounded like studio, so it sounded like you had just sat down in like an IMAX movie, you know, where it's like got the subs under the seats and everything.
Pretty much.
Holy shit! Oh, welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, and you guys have no idea.
124.
Jay sent us that like a week or two ago and said that's gonna be the intro on the next episode, and we had to wait in suspense.
It's so bad.
There's other
he's so
equally corny ones too that we can get.
He's so proud of himself.
That was the worst one. There was one.
He's so proud of himself.
There was a robot rhinoceros that was like running and like lasers and stuff.
I remember that one. It was pretty sick.
That one was pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't know if I can record a show after that.
Oh man. So yeah, we are back for 124. We don't have a guest, but as you can see, we're getting our studio broadcast setup dialed in. So I'm gonna
but we do have Travis this time,
and I am back this time. Yeah, it was sabotaged by.
We weren't sure there for a few minutes.
CenturyLink.
Today.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, we got delayed by 45 minutes because Chrome wouldn't allow my camera and microphone through, and I had to switch to Firefox. And that just stupid stuff like that. Very on brand for us.
Browser.
Vintage browser.
Vintage browser.
Browser.
I know.
Firefox is going to come back in style soon.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we're going to be using LimeWire again.
Yeah.
Just ruining our computers. Virus wire.
Well, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, LimeWire claimed a lot of laptops, didn't it?
And that was also during the whole time when you had to like look up stuff like using like the wrong spelt names and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, because wasn't it because it just people put whatever they felt like in there?
No, I think it had to do, or was that Napster? One of them had the whole issue with like they're getting like copyright issues, so they had to like change the name so they couldn't like come after them or something like that.
Those were rough days.
Yeah, kids these days. Well, speaking of which, this just shows you how old, or I don't know, how young the new generation really is. You guys heard about Justin Timberlake getting a DUI the other day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The officer did not know who Justin Timberlake was.
That's awesome. Can you imagine what that did to his ego? Like, not only is he like hammered, getting a DUI, he's like doing his first tour in like forever, and the cop doesn't even know who he is.
Yeah, some like young 22-year-old fresh out of the academy doesn't even know.
That's so great. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes to show, like, for instance, I think it was last night at the game 5. Not last night, 2 nights ago, game 5 of the finals. I guess everybody from New Kids on the Block was there, and they put the camera over him, but of course they didn't say who it was. And Kyle was asking us who that was, like why they put the camera on him. We're like, that's New Kids from the Block, and he's like, I have no idea who that is. I was like, yeah,
man,
Kyle,
that'd be nice not having that taking up space in your brain. Like just be able to get rid of like NSYNC, New Kids on the Block, Backstreet Boys, all of them, just like not even have that taking up any memory. That would be so nice. throw Limp Bizkit in there too. Get rid of Limp Bizkit.
Okay, what's the
Trapped.
hate on Limp
Get rid of
Bizkit?
Trapped. They suck, dude.
Dude,
Like it's weird that they're having a resurgence, but
that was like the heyday of rap metal or rap rock, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know what you call it,
but
it's so obnoxious. I tried to listen to it the other day. I was just like, God, it's so bad. Like his voice just pisses me off.
Okay, I guess I'm like one of the like 5 or 10% of the country that it doesn't bother, because like every once in a while break stuff comes on and you're like, man, I missed this song, and then you just got to crank it.
You think 5 to 10% of the country's tolerant of that?
I have no idea. I'm just throwing numbers out there.
It seems high. Yeah, I don't know.
I hope that's high.
Here, I'm gonna see if I can Google it.
What percentage of the U.S. population likes Limp Bizkit?
Who will publicly defend Limp Bizkit when shade is thrown their way? I think people just like Fred Durst. I don't think there's anything wrong with Fred Durst, I guess. But it's also like kind of his fault.
Okay, there's actually no exact like study, but there was like a lot of
I am so surprised. Man.
But there was a lot of forums that were like the question would be like, why does Limp Bizkit have so much hate? And then there was a good answer. They said
there's always a ton of replies.
It seems like a lot of bands that were popular in the 2000s are getting a lot of hate now.
That's true. A lot of them did come under fire, like for a really long time after it wasn't the early 2000s anymore.
Yeah.
They grouped Nickelback into that.
I mean, Nickelback, like that went on for a long time. I mean, people are now just kind of coming around to the idea that maybe that they might have been okay, and even then, it's like kind of you're brave.
Nickelback is music for loggers. It's for chopping wood.
I got a handful of their, I got a handful of their songs on my playlist, even though
you have no shame tonight, do you?
Nope, no shame.
You're just like fucking Limp Bizkit, dude. Yes, Nickelback. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's.
Hey, I'm just being honest.
You're keeping it. You are keeping it real, and I'm
keeping it hunted.
I appreciate
100.
You're authentic. You're very authentic tonight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of music, we were talking earlier, and I have not checked out the Falling in Reverse video with Tech 9 and Alex Terrible from Slaughter to Prevail. And so Adam was going to share that with us. And so we were going to watch that, and
we don't have to
react to it. No, let's do it.
Jay's all excited because we got all these new features now that we record live.
We're not talking any RC.
Let's try it.
No RC.
No, let's try it really quick. We always talk about music. We're not. Last time was gas prices, and tonight's music. Add to stage.
Okay, you want me to play it?
Yeah. Is this the video?
Yep.
It was shot in a food truck.
That's a police truck.
It would be cooler if it was a food truck.
I might be the first person to die of cringe on camera.
Was that the dude from Thor: Love and Thunder?
I have no idea. All I know is that someone's got deep pockets.
It was Thor. have this much CGI. Did Michael Bay direct this?
I have no idea.
No, that's too good of picture quality and steady camera.
There's no freeway chases.
Yeah.
I still just have never figured out what the whole like purpose of this video is.
I don't-
Like it changes like so much. Now he's like coming into like the werewolf thing.
Like, it's
the crime of the people are evil and never know demon design is the opposite of a divine. No! The hell is in front of you, set behind. I can feel every sign of a human decline. Believing the time is upon us when all of our people are blind. Yo! Red rain, saw it falling from a tower's dead plane. Head bang, Mandalay Bay Hotel at a lead cane. Sex change could get you caught up in death's range. He played sane, but really imitating Ed Gein. How do we get this way? Nigga, that shit to say, but we get this way. Having a fit today, so you wanna make a bitch today. My son's mom, when gone, it was really wrong. I thought it was gone. The vomit searching for son, but I didn't go John Muhammad. So the devil's right here on this level, white tears. Cause when rebels ready to put the heavy metal, I fear. Abomination, they've been faking, consecration, hating, wasting education. Got the killer on the killer, gotta chase him, go! Go!
His wardrobe is something else in this.
Spiraling out of control and deeper down the rabbit.
Here's our intro.
Yeah. It fits perfectly. It keeps cutting out.
And that's it.
Jesus.
Now you see why I said that reminds us of our new intro.
Fun fact, that was actually a huge puddle of pee they were standing in the entire time they shot that. That was not water. That was all Ronnie Radke's pee. Just everywhere. That was different. I don't know what happened.
See, and that's what I've never understood either.
There was some CGI.
There was a lot of CGI. There's a lot of money spent on that music video.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of money.
not
spent.
quite
That was
Michael
not
Bay
cheap.
money, or yeah, huh?
But
Yeah, I still don't like Falling in Reverse.
well,
In
the one
fact,
thing I
might
gotta
like them
give,
less now.
the one thing I gotta give Ronnie is he's not scared to just kind of like just put whatever out he wants to put out. Because he actually has another song out
That's
right now
for
with
sure.
Jelly Roll. He's got another song out right now with Jelly Roll, and it's got like a country theme to it.
Oh man!
You know,
Of course
Were
it
you
does.
guessing?
recording with Jay is just like, never an easy task. I'm trying
You just
to
not
like
make it easy at all.
be sincere, and Jay just giggles in the
You're
back.
like making a good argument and giving credit and everything else.
And then Jay just
But
shits
dude,
all
it's
over
got
it.
Jelly Roll in it.
What's the matter with Jelly Roll?
No, it's okay. Jelly Roll's in it. The
Okay.
name?
The name? Why? Because he's a big white dude? So he goes by the name Jelly Roll?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I take all kinds of issue with that.
I think you would take all kinds of issue if you, I think you take all kinds of issue if you actually ever looked at it, what's on my playlist.
Oh,
I don't
we
think
need
I've
to
I've
go
never
on a
heard
road
Jelly
trip
Roll
sometime.
actually.
So
We would die.
So with Jelly Roll, what's really interesting is there's some people that have never listened to his rap and they've only listened to his like country stuff that he's been putting out lately. and that's why this this latest video from Falling in Reverse featuring Jelly Roll is very interesting, is because it's got like a country heavy metal kind of theme to it,
Yeah.
which gives it like an interesting twist. It's just like a very different from everything else that's coming out right now. I guess that's one thing that kind of like is drawing me towards them right now, is it's just like they're doing whatever the hell they want and they don't really care, you know, what people think about it. They're just putting it out there, and it's actually getting pretty decent reviews.
That's reasonable. Yeah, makes sense.
Jail just shit all over it.
No, oh god. I'm just thinking Falling in Reverse and country, and why don't you just show us? Why do you know so much about this? Why do you know so much about this?
Because I'm very into music. Okay, 5 million views on this All My Life featuring Jelly Roll, and it's only been out for 13 days.
So that's a lot then.
That's a lot, because let's put it this way. The Ronald video that we just watched has been out for a month and it's got 12 million views. So you already got almost half of that.
Oh, wow.
In 6 days. So
that's
no,
different.
I'm trying to think of it. Like I don't know how to put my music interest / like, I don't know, taste, whatever you want to say.
You can't put it in a box.
I can't put it in a box because I listen to everything.
Put it in a box and label it. You just can't.
So yeah, so I listen to a lot of music. So
you do. Some of it has Jelly Roll on it.
Do you remember the Eric Andre show when he would have guests on sometimes, but like they weren't actually them? Like
he would say it was somebody and it's just not.
Yeah, like George Clooney, and it's just some guy no one's seen before, but he's like acting like him and everything. And I was just thinking about that. Like, it'd be funny to just interview some random guy we found, and it's like, hey, we're talking to Jelly Roll this week, and have him play up into it.
Some skinny little black dude.
All right.
We've got Mary J. Blige in the studio. Right. So let's do some questions.
Oh, you want to get right into that?
Behind.
I know. We went from like,
why don't we?
Wanting to do, like, because there's some wanting to review the music video to now all of a sudden
like immediate pivot into questions.
Yeah.
After Jay just like shit all over my musical interests.
No, I mean,
yeah, it's like the toothpaste is out of the tube now. You can't put it back.
I don't know. Huh. Well, okay.
And we're only 20 minutes into the show.
Is that it?
That's it.
It's gonna be shorter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we got a really late start because we were trying to do a bunch of stuff anyway.
Well, no, I mean, like it will be more like 16 minutes in or something by the time it's cut.
Yeah, by the time we cut out all the nonsense.
Little bit. Won't be too aggressive.
We don't need to cut anything out.
Okay, hit us with the questions there.
All right, so sorry, I'm going to turn the sound off on my phone. Freaking amateur hour here. So the post that I made about the questions and stuff had a link that was sent to us from one of our friends, Dan Sutherland, and it was in regards to a 24 skill crawler course that people put up on, it looks like the side of a sidewalk in Fresno, and did a bunch of concrete work and some other stuff. And the caption for it says, a local remote controlled car racing group That's not exactly accurate. And Fresno says they're trying to bring the community together with family-oriented fun. The city says the group is an attractive nuisance that needs to leave. And then it says there's a full story. So actually what we should be doing is sharing the news story about this and then going into the questions.
Would you like me to share the news story?
Yes, please.
All right, hold on. Let me get to the video. I'm on our page right now.
We're going to need to hire a DJ to do all this stuff. Like a little flunky that just pulls up videos for us.
Well, normally that's why I would be here to do something like that.
You're that flunky. If we were really dialed in, we would have like music video, this, like everything staged and ready to go. But that would require probably doing like an outline or a map of how we want the show to go, and that's just not our style. It's too much organization.
But I mean, I could tune it. I can dial it in a little bit better on the next one. This is just us playing around with new features that Jay just discovered about 5 minutes ago. So
yeah,
all right,
like our fancy schmancy background.
Yes, Jay spent hours designing that. So make sure you guys, comment, give him some praise.
No, it was a 10-minute job.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready. Roll the tape. Roll the tape. Roll the tape. Nerds.
Look, go by Chris. That's it.
Back to you.
That's all you get. 28 seconds of that. And then it says right there, local remote controlled racing group, exactly what Jay read.
It wasn't even worthy of a newscaster talking about it.
Nope, it wasn't.
Well, I guess they talk about it on if you open the page link, there's a video in there.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, no, me neither. But there should be video in there, yeah.
Yeah, there's the full story one. Did you want me to play that one?
Maybe.
Okay, hold on. Let me get it set up. We
might as well, because most of the questions all revolve around this anyways, so we might as well address it.
Okay, give me a second. I'm trying to get through the ad so we can. Oh, there you go. This was the video. Talk about amateur hour. Thank goodness for editing.
We're getting it figured out.
Okay, ready? Guess I can make it large screen. And
Am I the only one that can add it to the stage?
Is it not on the stage?
Out of the area,
no, it looks like I have to press it to get it to go on.
Sorry, because sometimes it's like a larger session.
Group that pisses me off. I'm already mad that they called it racing.
Okay, ready?
A local remote-controlled car racing group says they're doing Fresno City a favor by keeping homeless people out of the area they're racing in. But now the city says this group is an attractive nuisance that needs to leave. Fox 26 reporter Sophia Lesios explains why one man says the city is lying about what the group is doing. Sophia.
Rich, Vincent Contreras, who helped start the RC racing competitions in Fresno, says that the city is lying to kick them out. He says that the city claims they have been racing in the street, blocking traffic, and have been a nuisance to the community. Have you ever seen remote-controlled cars race on a dirt track? That's exactly what Vincent Contreras does, and he takes it pretty seriously.
The cars are as big as my hand, and we have events. They're pretty much based off NASCAR points and NASCAR builds.
He says it's about bonding in the community.
This is kind of therapy. It's a family-oriented group. We have wives out here.
Did he just say NASCAR?
But the city
he said
of Fresno
NASCAR.
Doesn't share the same feeling.
We're just getting bullied, even though they were telling me, we're going to work with you, we're going to get you a place, we don't want this shut down. And then all of a sudden, I get a call Friday morning, hey, how's your day going? Well, guess what? We pull it all out.
Contreras says they've been out near Yale and Pleasant Avenue in Northwest Fresno for 7 months now. Initially, the city even donated dirt to help them get started. But now the city says the racetrack has got to go.
What happened to you're going to give me a permit and give me corrections to pull it all out? I even told them you're just saving the veterans, the kids, the grandmas. It's devastating. A lot of guys, grown men, it hurts them.
The city of Fresno sent a statement to Fox 26. It reads, "This is an attractive nuisance and it's built on city easement. It should be removed. It's only a matter of time before a child plays on the dangerous terrain and is injured or seriously hurt."
And all I'm trying to do is just keep the positive vibe and build an RC community.
Contreras says the racetrack is only being used after businesses around them close for the day. He says that he's been contacting the local council member to see if he can help get him permits or at least a new location, Rich.
All right, Sophia. Contreras says city officials gave him until the end of the month to get the track removed.
Crazy.
Yep.
Certainly not the first story like this, though. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the city donated dirt and stuff, but then
So here's just my take on it, just based on what he said in that video. What I think it was is it's probably started out, the city's like, yeah, where's the harm in this? Did it, no big deal. And I bet you a bunch of Karens came out and said, oh, my kid could trip and fall on that, or oh, this, that, and the other, and the next thing. And then that's when they were like, okay, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. And now they're coming up with every excuse in the book to try and pull it after they already started. It's one of those, they let the cat out of the bag and now they're just trying to get out of it.
Yeah. It also kind of sounds like it wasn't organized the right way. Like, I mean, something like that, like what they were saying about getting permits and stuff. Like, I think something like this, you need to kind of go through the proper channels to try and make it a legit thing to begin with,
Yeah,
I
mean, no, that's true, but it's also 24th scales, like I think that it's one of those things where there's a reasonable benefit of the doubt where it's like, you don't know what you don't know. I agree, be prepared, but I don't think it's the most unreasonable thing that like we had gotten to this point and that hadn't been done. And it's not like the city would be quick to process them, right? What I will say, because I don't know any of these people, is regardless if they're RC enthusiasts or not, what I will say is that we are only getting one side of that story. And the thing that I think about when I hear about stuff like this is that what's not told, especially in RC and a lot of event guys, I don't know, like none that are still around, but just, you ran into like the flash in the pans back in the day where just, I don't know, those guys can tend to be a bit sensationalist. But the thing is that take, for example, like the state parks, or like when we've had events and everything at those, or, think of the spots up by you, Dad, where it's like Cap and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And, for the most part, I think our experiences have been good. But I will say that when you're in a public space, that, for all the people that do come up to you and are like intrigued and like, their kids are watching it or whatever, and they're like, oh, that's cool. There's probably an equal amount of people, or honestly more, that don't appreciate it as much. Now, whatever, right? Because it is a public space and not everybody has to be happy with this. I get that. But sometimes it's not helped by, again, personal experience thing, where sometimes RC people are not the cleanest, or people just gathering in general when it comes to stuff left behind. I mean, God, you think about like, and I know it's not only RC people, but like you go to some of these places, like the cigarette butts, and
oh yeah,
there's always some effort of like, we have to do some cleanup behind us because people, like grown adults, couldn't behave. So I do think that like that doesn't go very far in certain environments where it is maybe a bit more to the public eye. Now, I would
Yeah, I
be
mean,
really
it's
surprised if they caused something like that where that's a problem here. Like, I'm not saying that's what's happening at all, but I do understand the hesitation to have stuff like this because you just never know when like it becomes too much and you have to like rein that back in, and then yeah, I don't know. As much as I hate
yeah,
it when
because
it's
I
like
could
city
see.
doesn't promote it. Yeah, go ahead.
I well, I think part of the big difference here is they constructed something, versus
Mm.
like all the spots up here is all natural terrain and pre-existing space that's
It looked like a
public
decent
space
amount
that
of work had
everybody
gone into
shares.
that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
they actually like built stuff there, and you don't just build and pour concrete on city property. Like I mean, it's like you don't just.
Yeah.
It's not like it was just natural terrain that you're driving on. Like they constructed stuff, and so I understand
That is a
why
very
the
good
city was
point.
upset.
Yeah. If it was just dirt lot, I don't think people like. In fact, actually, it's probably a pretty decent bet that if it was still just dirt lot, then or little bit where nothing's happened there, then actually it's probably a non-issue for the most part.
Yeah, but
yeah,
now it's
and they
like
got like a banner's
concrete and
up.
it's a mini skate park. Yeah, I mean,
like a banner's up, and maybe it's not up all the time, but it's like it's still not your building, and like, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
there's just a lot going wrong with everything that's and then on top of that, like
yeah,
saying that the city's lying and stuff. It's like you're not going to get this resolved very well and have them be on your side when you're like on the news saying that the city lied and all
no,
this
for
stuff.
sure. And
like they're not going to be super willing to work with you in the
Yeah.
future if you call them out like that. It's just bad.
True. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I will say it's not like it's the most unreasonable thing ever, though, to say that like he's 100% correct, because that just sounds like government nonsense as far as like a switch back on this. But again, who knows? Maybe the construction prompted that, or who knows? Maybe that's been there according like to since the beginning, according to them.
I have
Hard
a
to
feeling
say.
because I mean it's like you can't build, you can't break ground, you can't do any kind of excavation, like all of those sort of things.
That's why the city easement
to
bit
have
matters.
permits,
Yeah.
I mean, I think to have resolved this well, I mean, what should have happened is they should have like asked the city for a space to begin with, like, hey, we would like some room to build something and present the hobby to them and stuff, and but
I don't disagree at all. I think, but I do understand like the formation of this is
it wrong.
Oh, of course, but I don't think the formation of this as much as a problem to me, because again, it's like I understand it. It's like 24th scales. It's like for all we know, they've not been in the hobby that long, and so it's not like they're really to the point where they're thinking about proposing this like grandiose effort, because they probably wouldn't be there to begin with. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I mean the thing is, like, I remember being younger and like dirt lots in the city and stuff, we'd build BMX jumps and stuff and they'd get torn down, and it was just like this constant thing. And it's like that's I don't know if these guys never went through that when they were kids or whatever, and so it's like I'm not surprised whatsoever that any of it got shut down. I mean, it's just like it looks like it was kind of handled wrong from every turn. But
I think that should have at least just been an accepted risk, just because it's like it feels like you're asking. Like, this is a pessimistic way to view it, but it's also too. It's like it. Again, I guess this is I mean, actually, if you've ever just paid to city politics in general, this isn't that abnormal of a thing.
No, it's
but maybe
not
the
at all.
attitude towards RC is not exactly cemented either, and that's something that like we've had a lot of exposure to over the years, where there's just red tape because they just do not care enough to help you out. And
and that's the thing that people don't realize is like RC guys think that RC is really freaking cool, And for the most part, RC guys are the only people that think that RC is really cool. This reminds me of a situation that we ran into here locally. You know, there's a city park that everybody crawls at and stuff, and the key to keeping these spaces that are shared with the public open is to be as like innocuous as possible. You know, like just don't stand out. You know, just don't make a scene. Don't try not to draw attention to yourself. You know, that's how you stay welcome in these places, because it's not like it's your constitutional right to drive RC cars there. They can take this away from you at any point. The city can be like, all right, no RC cars here. Yeah, I've seen them do it at skate parks. You know, there's skate parks that have signs that say, you know, no RC cars, even though it's a city park. So, I mean, it's a privilege that's really easily taken away. And the way to make these sort of things work is to just be inconspicuous. And there's a group up here that I was up crawling one day, and it was like a Thursday night, and this dude showed up with his buddies, and he like parks backwards and like opens all the doors on his car and starts bumping music and turns his LED off-road lights on, and it's, you know, party time, and he's vaping, and his buddies show up and they're smoking weed and cigarettes and stuff, and this is all like, you know, the public's around and stuff, and it's created this big spectacle. And it's like, man, like, you guys are doing
if you
stuff
see a
that you're not
collection of
supposed to do.
people,
I mean, like,
yeah, you see a collection of people wearing RC shorts.
yeah.
Like, I know the average person doesn't like see that initially, but like I was looking at that, and that was like the first thing I noticed, where I was like, oh yeah, like they're all into this. And it's just I don't want to dog on him too hard, because like to me, it looks like it was a really cool but small effort. But what I will say is they should not be surprised under any circumstance. This is how it ended up. I know that like that's not helpful to hear after the fact. I 100% get that. I didn't offer a solution either, though. So it's just one of those things where it's like, that's just unfortunately how this is going to continue to work. And yeah, you do have to really expect to get buddy and be willing to make concessions. I think that's where I've seen a lot of these things go wrong in the past too, is that the RC representative goes in with zero budge and will not work with the city at all, because they're, you know, whatever, and they're not being helpful. And nothing happens as a result of whatever they were trying to put together because of this, because like we would not give ground. And that's, you know, again, not saying that's what happened here, but it's just that the deck is already so stacked against you. You really have to go above and beyond for any of this to work. And this is why a lot of people don't bother to do it, because it is a grindy path, and you are still hoping. Again, you may even get there. Maybe the city really was cool with it all the way up until suddenly not, but that can just happen. Right.
Yeah. So, and really like that whole article and stuff, or, you know, that news segment too. I mean, like that, I think going forward, that interview is going to hurt them as far as their relationship with the city. That just,
I mean, I don't know. It depends on how compelling people found him. Cause it's like because I will say that they gave him the best possible opportunity to really hand it to the city. And
well, yeah,
the
but
city
like
certainly wasn't available for comment.
You know, like that's not going to help. Yeah, I
don't disagree, but it's also like I could see it going the other way, where like I am somewhat sympathetic.
So we had I wouldn't say a similar situation, but we had a very I guess say in the same realm of kind of a situation that happened, not with RC, but with a skate park. Probably we're going on like 20 years ago now. City of San Mateo, I guess somebody had reached out and said, hey, we always meet up and skate at this abandoned parking lot area, and it's got a complete fence. It's completely fenced off from the main road and everything. And they said, is there anything we can do to like turn this into like a little skate park or whatever. And at first the city was like, yeah, no problem. So a bunch of people dumped a bunch of money into it privately, built a skate park, all this stuff. Well, then people started getting hurt, and then all of a sudden you got parents going to the city saying, how could you allow this? Now we got people getting hurt, and then the thing got shut down probably 6 months into being in existence. And so it just goes to show you the city could be totally behind it at one point, and then all of a sudden they get enough complaints and it's too much of a liability on their end, and they just don't want to do anything about it.
I will say that if it was something like this, or if they were being that disruptive where like people were complaining, I don't know why the city wouldn't just say that. Like, attractive nuisance is a very strange way to try and like button that up, when it's like, if
It's
any of these term. It is, because it's like, the way I'm thinking about this, to give them again a little bit of credit, like they could have just said whatever the actual problem was, and people probably would have understood.
That's where I think it's just, they just used a term as like I call it the general sweep. That's all it is. It's just going to generally sweep it into one category, and that's their reasoning, and they're not going to comment any further on it.
Yeah. Where it's like, oh, if we saw like, you know, like public alcohol use or something like that, like just throwing something out there, it's like you would think that would be cited as a reason, right? You know, or like attractive nuisance substantiated by, you know, to paint that kind of picture. So yeah, I agree. So that makes me think too that it's like the city just needed to say something. And again, you know, but that can just happen, and that's their way of like, oh, we're taking care of it, and we'll just say that, and then for them it's case closed. They don't care.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they don't care about RC. It's you know, no skin off their teeth. I mean, and it's that way just about everywhere, you know. I mean, the only time they're going to start caring about, the only time like city or like Parks and Rec and stuff is going to care about RC is when you have a large group of people that are approaching them to try and get a space, you know. They need to be aware that there's a community and how big the community is. And if they don't have any of that information, like they're not going to care about, you know. I mean, it's just, a lot of people don't even understand what any of this stuff is about, you know. I mean, like even like the news people like calling it racing and stuff, like they don't get what it is and don't understand it. And
but also too, what are they going to tell them? Oh, it's like a scale RC challenge. Like nobody cares.
Well, yeah, no, I know nobody. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's just that you have to give the city or Parks and Rec a reason to care about it, and because it's not going to happen, you know. They're not just going to like default care about RC people, you know. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, you know, that's your right, you should be able to do that here too, or you should be able to build this, or, you know, it's not going to be that way. You know, like you've got to like present your case to them.
And there's so many different angles you could take on this, because also too, like what's not talked about is like, did the scope change in the beginning? Was it like him and like 2 or 3 other guys, maybe, where it's like, we're just going to have some fun here after hours, like not doing anything wrong, just chilling. And then is it like, oh,
and no concrete at the time or whatever, you know?
Yeah, but then maybe they even did like something like they gave him a little bit of dirt or whatever. I'm thinking about the logistics of that, but like, say all that happens, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, a banner is going up, more people are showing up, maybe they had an event and stuff like that, like then they're like, okay, like this is actually becoming a thing and getting into permits territory. It was probably just some random,
well, yeah, especially with like a banner,
from like, yeah, well, and so my point there too is just like, okay, like what I also could have seen happening is they get to a point like someone talks to them like, hey, you're going to need permits for this. But like maybe the person who told them that overpromised a little bit. It wasn't that easy, or the city, like the city had a different, like whoever else at the city that would be in charge of that had a different view. And
yeah,
you know,
or they just didn't understand completely what this was.
They didn't get the full story. Yeah, like there's just so many ways that could have broken down, because if it's only been there for that many long, I will say, like you saw in the shots, there's a decent amount of people there. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand
When you
that
start
you
hanging
do,
banners, that gets into sign permit territory and stuff. And, especially
and I
once
do
it's on a
understand.
building, you put a
Yeah,
banner on a building, that's sign permit. And I mean,
you
it's
just get into a lot of
there's
gray
just
area.
so much
There's so many.
sketchiness.
Yeah, agree. Like you got into so many different gray areas that it's like it gets hard to dig yourself out of that, I think, and
Yeah.
things spiral really quickly. So I don't know. I mean, what I know to be true is that we're definitely missing information. I don't think it's like, oh, they're
Yeah.
withholding anything or whatever. You show what you show. But like it's still not what you want to see. I get it. The other thing too
Yeah,
is like, and
sure.
I understand that everybody like wants, it's like a call to action thing, or like people get defensive about it and they want to go comment and stuff like that. And it's not like I don't understand, but I don't know if it's particularly helpful. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into this too much. You guys tell me, but I don't know if it's particularly helpful to then go to the news post and everybody is spamming comments about how great RC is and all of these experiences and everything or whatever. Like it is like that they're like really like cheerleading it, because then it's like you go in, it's like it's all you read, and it's like no one else can get a word in on this at all. And it's like it's all for the
Yeah.
most part positive things, like everyone talking about like trying to like plead their case. And I get why, but I don't know if it's received the same way. You know what I mean? I don't know. And maybe I think
Yeah.
it's a non-issue, but I do wonder if that like whole wave of it really doesn't help as like a cherry on top.
Yeah. Because some of the comments on here, we had one from Matt Medlock. It's a city easement. These guys have nothing to stand on. Why you get permits and everything before you start a project like this. You can't just start building something with no right to the property, then cry you're being bullied, and then didn't take the appropriate steps to do it the right way.
It's hindsight, but it's a very valid point. Yes.
Yeah, very. Yeah. Another guy said, when I found out about the easement, I was, duh, it's not your property. This is so stupid. And another guy says, wait till they find out the city controls the land indefinitely and that this is agreed with the actual landowner. When you use the defense, we keep homeless out of the area, you would 100% know you're in the wrong.
Yeah,
So
I didn't want to touch that one.
Yeah, that wasn't really.
That felt like playing a card.
Help them.
That felt like
that
playing
didn't
a
help
card.
that didn't help their case. Like,
yeah.
Well, if we didn't do this, there'd be homeless people living on this 8-foot thick, 8-foot deep section of sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so I don't know. These guys are saying a lot of the same stuff that we did. So it was just interesting, I mean, of course the RC guys are gonna be like, oh, this is bullshit, and then people that have experience with like business and permits and stuff are gonna see it the other way and understand all the red tape and the bureaucracy and stuff that's involved with things like this. So.
Nobody wants to see below the surface level because that would shatter illusions. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those. It sucks that it happened. I feel for them. I'm not surprised in any way whatsoever. It just was like, what do you do besides go somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly. Well, either way, I wish them luck. Hopefully they get something worked out. If
it
not,
would be cool if like they
surprised.
It would be cool if like they do actually come through with some sort of solution, but I think it's a long way back, and that you need to be nice to them and do them some favors.
Yeah, I think some things were probably said in that interview that is going to set them back a couple steps, but we'll see what happens.
Like, what was the lie? Or did did circumstances change?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Those are two radically different things.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
one
just
of those things.
Yeah,
like I said, you had to see it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been around BMX and skateboarding and stuff is familiar with getting kicked out of spots.
That's what's my thing
is
is
just
like
their
that
first experience with it. It sounds like.
Yeah, that's my thing. I was like, it feels like it's just a similar situation as that. It's not like people are like out for RC. It's just like, I mean, people, you could not skate anywhere. Like,
Oh, dude,
it's
no.
just
I
a
mean, like you
huge
couldn't even
problem.
skate at like school playgrounds. Like, I mean, when there were no skate parks when I was a kid, there just weren't. You know, I mean, Redmond didn't get a skate park until I was well into my adult life. So, I mean, it just, you know, there was a lot that had to take place, and the way that that sport was perceived in the public eye before it was actually something that was like allowed, and they were given space and like, oh, this is actually good because it's giving kids something to do instead of, you know, drinking or doing drugs, or, you know, especially in small towns that don't have a whole lot of recreation or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, now it's better. I mean, like, if RC like this was a thing back when I was a kid and stuff, and they were trying to do this, it would not be happening at all. So I mean, at least they've got like skate parks and BMX tracks and stuff that have like kind of laid the groundwork for special interest groups to have their own space to be able to do their activities and stuff. So I mean,
you want to, you want to know
they're
how to
at
get
least
this resolved
at the right point in history to try and make this happen.
Yeah, that's what you really want to do. Granted, I don't know what the situation is like in Fresno for this, but it's that, like, talk to those people. Like, talk to whoever's running, like, if there is a BMX track or something locally or whatever, like, talk to those people and like see what they said. You know, if it's anything like that, or if it's like private, or someone is in charge of managing it for the city. Because it's the same sort of issue. Probably get some good tips.
Yeah. There's actually a skate park right now that's getting changed. I think it's the one in Anacortes, if I remember right.
Oh, really?
Where they're actually having like city meetings regarding like the layout of it and stuff, and like
that's cool.
You know, so I mean, it's like it's organized meetings as to how the new park is going to be laid out and stuff. So it's pretty neat. So yeah, that's
really
what
sick
they
one
really
here in
need
Aurora.
to do. Is just. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
There is
a
a crazy one that's near the on-road track.
Really?
Like where the on-road track is, and then that park that I was at, some people might have seen some of the posts that I did, but there's a city park in SeaTac, which is like near the airport in between Seattle and Tacoma, and there's an RC on-road track that's a 10th scale track. There's a 10th scale off-road track there. Both of them have super nice driver stands with like pressure treated wood planking and roofs. And I mean, like really, really nice, like, you know, like stonework, you know, around like the base of them and stuff of the driver stands. Super, super nice setup. And there's restrooms there. And there's a skate park and there's a BMX track. I mean, like this park is like, it's got everything you could possibly want to do. So, but I hadn't noticed the skate park until I drove in from a different direction last week, and pretty impressive. Really cool. It's neat that there's places like that, which it was funny. I mean, like even the dudes at the on-road track, like I went there 2 days in a row hoping to kind of get like some like time to myself, you know, to be able to like not be in people's way and get some video and stuff. And it was busy both days, but like even still, dude, just like RC people, they're on the stand smoking weed and cigarettes and stuff. And these are older guys too, like 50s and 60s, you know, and I'm just like, all it takes is just one person to walk by and be like the RC guys at the park are smoking weed, and I was there with my kids, and they're, you know, secondhand high, and it takes one person getting pissed off to get the whole thing shut down. And I don't know why RC people can't just do shit the right way and act right. Like, I mean,
well, the hard part is it's not even like it's a majority of people, but it happens enough and it is so noticeable. Like it's zero attempt at concealing ever. This was the same
Yeah.
thing with alcohol at events, was like just they could not help but have the can in your hand or something or whatever. And I get it, there's stupid rules, but it's just the little things where like you really need people to tighten up on that, because you know, you feeling like you're being infringed upon though is like, it happens enough that event's not there next year. And there's just so many examples of this.
Oh, well,
throughout
remember
RT.
the track in Burlington. Remember that whole deal where
That was it.
they were
Yeah.
like they they approached me to do a sign. They wanted me to make a sign for them that said there's no alcohol or anything like that there, right? So
Yeah.
they asked me to donate a sign, like labor and materials and stuff, and spend my own money to do the sign for them. And then they turn right around at one of the races and they're talking over the loudspeaker and they're like, yeah, you know, if you're going to drink, just make sure nobody can see it, you know? And I'm just like, so hold on, like you're going to try and like get somebody to, you know, make a sign to try and enforce these rules and stuff. And then you're going to turn right around and be like, oh, just ignore it. You know, we just don't let people see it. But, you know, it's like, well
Yeah. And I
fuck
get it.
me.
Some,
I mean, let's just,
and
you know,
yeah.
let's have, who cares if it costs me money, you know, like,
yeah,
just
I think
ridiculous.
at some events, and I'm not events, but just I know sometimes it's just like, okay, there's actually nothing technically wrong with it, so whatever. But it's just being aware of like when those are the circumstances and when there are the circumstances of like maybe we also are a little bit reserved about, you know, broadcasting it, if at the very most.
Yeah,
It's just knowing like when that time comes, and I feel like that's not a line that is ever viewed, and that's where this gets messy. Yeah, I don't know, whatever, it's, you know, shaking the fist at the sun, but
yeah,
it's just one of those things.
That just baffled me though, that it's like you're going to expect somebody to spend their own money on this to try and enforce a rule that you're just blatantly not going to enforce, period. Like, well, no, of course I'm not going to do it for you now. Like, give me a break. You know, like, why would I? Yeah, just, I don't know. It's an RC thing. So since we last had a show, Vanquish dropped a new rig that has been, I'm assuming from everything that I've seen, incredibly popular. What is it? It's the H10 Optic. Is that what it's called?
I believe so.
Yeah. They got two versions of it, and it's a 1.9 plastic cage rock buggy, and it looks fantastic. And from everything that I've heard, it actually crawls really, really well. So that was pretty cool. That's really, I think, one of the only new things that have dropped since the last episode, if I remember right.
Yeah, probably one of the only ones that's like, you know, worth mentioning.
Yeah, noteworthy. Yeah, thing is pretty rad.
Yeah. No, it's another nice release. For me, it's just, and I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this because I know I had a handful of people that like messaged it to me like as soon as it came out, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. It's not my necessarily cup of tea that I'm gonna be like, oh, I need to run out and buy that, because to me it's very reminds me of, what was the first rig they had?
Oh, the Ripper.
The Ripper reminds me of just a plastic version of the Ripper. So it's got that same kind of style.
Some styling cues, yeah.
It's got some styling cues to that. So to me, it's just kind of like one of those. It's like, no, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. If you were to put it like, you know, toe to toe with the Miller Racing one that got released, 3 months ago, 4 months ago now.
Yeah.
It definitely would probably hold up better. and definitely probably outperform that rig.
Yeah, I think so
But it's
too.
just not. It's just for me. It's like it's almost like they're trying to have like a resurgence in like the whole, U4 style rigs, which they're really like they're cool. They're their own style, of rig. That like they have their own fan base that loves that style rig. It's just that to me, I just don't see enough of that event happening anymore. So your average person who's going to buy this is going to be your trail crawler, and it's just I don't know. Like I said, just doesn't grab my attention. Let's just put it that way. I mean, like I said, I know I probably have an unpopular opinion. It's just I've never really been into the whole U4 thing. That's never been really my style. Like it's just not my cup of tea. I like more of your trail trucks, your trucks that you look like you'd see on the Rubicon or out at Fordyce, your Toyotas, your Fords, your Chevys, that kind of thing. Stuff that looks like you built it in your backyard, where you're gonna have mismatched doors and whatnot. That to me, that grabs my attention more. So like if they were to come out with something like that, I'd be like, that's badass, but when you come out with something like that, it's just really not my cup of tea. Now the market that I think that they missed, and this is my true honest opinion, and I was actually shocked because if anybody follows Harley, he's in the middle or was in the middle of coming up with that rock buggy style rig, and he has the moon buggy. He's got the whole chassis builder kit thing for it where you follow the bends, zip tie it, and then it holds it there. You can weld it, solder it, whatever you want to do all together. With him designing that, I'm really shocked they didn't come out with a moon buggy style rig. Now I think that would have taken off even more than the H10 Optic.
Yeah, because the H10 Optic is kind of like a more realistic looking version of like what the Capra is.
Exactly.
Like
so
a trail
which
buggy,
which like I said is cool. Don't get me wrong. It's a cool rig.
No, I mean I really like it. Like personally, like I would absolutely get one. Like I think it's pretty rad. But in fact, I was kind of thinking about it. Like I was thinking about trying to maybe get a cage and do that with like the Element axles and Stealth XF trans and stuff, and build like an Element based version of that with the Vanquish cage.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty neat. I think we will see somebody do a moon buggy though. Like it's just a matter of time, I think, before we see an RTR or a kit version of a moon buggy. It's those are the popularity is like just surged with those huge lately.
I will say $499 is a really good price for this. Yeah. And I do think that this is something we've been missing for a long time in this industry now, actually. The more that I'm really starting to look at this thing, this reminds me so much of the kind of thing that you would walk into shops. A lot of people would buy something like this back when.
Kind of like the Wraith.
That's what I was trying to think of. That was the kind of thing where it's like that was the point where they chose their own adventure. Were they getting a scale rig or were they getting a Wraith? Most people, I think, probably started out with a Wraith versus vice versa. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what this reminds me of. And for $499, granted, they were a lot cheaper back in the day, right? Race and everything, and this is obviously Vanquish, so you would expect more. But it's not that hard. I don't think it's that hard to stomach if you're like kind of getting into RC, or this kind of great RC, and you're like shopping around a little bit. Suddenly this becomes pretty appealing once you start adding it all up.
Yeah, well, especially with that thing having the VRD trans and stuff, like that's awesome.
Yeah, like this is the best thing Vanquish I think has released that would attract a net new RC customer. Like someone getting into the hobby.
It seems popular. Like it seems like it has really, really been a hit for him so far from everything that I've seen.
Yeah. So from some of the posts that I've seen from even like Stephen Lee at RC Country, he's ordering them in small batches and he's having a hard time keeping them on the shelf. So
yeah, wow. Honestly, I'm not surprised. That's awesome.
That's cool. Good for them.
I do got to say, I really do like the front axle. The front axle's sick. So,
Oh, it's rad, isn't it? That is
Everything
so
on
cool.
this is pretty cool.
I'm hoping that they like release those as
Super
like
scale.
a standalone part you can buy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to get the replacement parts for it for sure.
Even their
But
cage
I
is so
don't know
sick
if
though.
I'll
They're
do like a kit. The
even
cage
their
is
molded
rad.
parts quality just looks so good.
I found a cage on eBay for like $105, but it didn't have panels or anything.
God damn.
It's like that's a lot.
Yeah.
That would be a fun project though. Like I think
Very.
that's something I would probably do. You know what I would really like to do is one of those and do trailing arms on it and do leading arms. So do like leading arms and trailing arms on it.
That would be sick.
That would be a cool one.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe I'll have to do that. That might be a fun build. I completely skipped over Chris Trudeau's questions.
I was going to say, I think you skipped over the questions period after we went over the news article.
Yeah, I read all the comments and stuff, but no. So Chris's first question was if I'm going to come down there this summer. I thought I was coming down this weekend, like on Saturday, but I'll need to message him and see, because we were talking about me going down there Saturday, and then I saw him post something about a Bigfoot run or something, and they might go and pre-run some trail or help set it up. So I don't know. I'll see if their plans have changed. But his first like regular question is, what interaction have you had with authorities, park rangers, police, etc., and even the public when they encounter you in certain areas? Harassed, chased off? Are they cool? Does it generate interest or questions by people who had no idea about crawling?
I try and limit my interactions with them in general.
Yeah.
So I have a two-part answer to this, because like, for instance, anytime, and I haven't been there in probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, but anytime I've been to Mount Diablo, Rock City, I've never seen any park ranger, anything like that. We always get the looky-loos. Usually the families out on trail or on, like going on a family hike or whatever, and the kids get really interested and they want to see what it is. They run over. The only problem is, you run into the risk of like, then the kids want to be like right there as you're trying to like go over some obstacle, or they're like practically to the verge of wanting to pick the rig up, just out of pure excitement. And it's hard to say like, hey, don't touch that. This isn't like, toy grade. This is hobby grade. And then of course you always get then the dads are like, oh, that's really cool. How much was that? And you're like, oh, it's like $400 for the rig you're looking at right here. And they're like, are you kidding me? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you get that interaction, but then I've also have gone to a couple local state parks. Like there's one here in Woodside, California, the town just north of me, and it's called Huddart Park. And back when the Deadbolt 2 came, I call it Deadbolt 2, but the Deadbolt on the SCX10 2 platform came out. I was trying to get some promo photos for it. And I was like trying to think, okay, middle of the week, where can I go? And I'm like, Huddart Park's pretty woodsy. I can go find one of the walking trails, go through, some of the stuff. There's a little creek, dried creek bed and whatnot. I'll go there. And I wasn't even really running it, and I was all by myself. So I parked my truck, hiked in a little bit, started filming, getting a couple shots, couple rollers and whatnot. And all of a sudden the park rangers pulled up and they're like, hey, can I ask you what you're doing? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm getting some promo shots for this RC car. Figured I'd go to a quiet little corner of the park and just, get what I need. And I already paid to get in. And he said, well, we've had some incidences with drones, so unfortunately we have to ask you not to run it. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I'll give you like 5 minutes, like finish getting whatever you want to get, because I feel bad because you paid for it, your entrance already, but we can't have you running it, because if anybody else sees it, then they try to do it. And now we have a problem on our hands of chasing all these people out and telling them not to do it. And I'm like, okay, fair's fair.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. And then that's really the last time I've ever been to Huddart Park, which was actually kind of shocking to me because prior to that, I was there like 2 years before, like I think about 2 or 3 years prior to that with Michelle's dad, Elio, and our buddy Todd, and we like did the whole creek with like not one person bugging us. So it goes back to that whole thing, you know, one bad apple can ruin the bunch. And I'm sure you got some novice person that's like, oh, drones are cool and I want to, you know, fly a drone. Next thing you know, they're trying to fly it and people are out having a picnic and here comes this, you know, 15-pound machine flying out of the air, crashing into somebody.
I will say that
and they're loud too.
Yeah,
they're not quiet. Yeah, I will say the RC like surface people have nothing on the drone guys when it comes to being a problem. Like talk about not being able to be trusted at all. Like it's just crazy what people just immediately decided to do with them. Airports and stuff. You're just like, what are you thinking?
Well, it's more than just that. It's like the thing with the drones, which gets really interesting, is like there's been times we've been like full on just hanging out, you know, it's like a Saturday afternoon, just got done like doing whatever, you know, unloading groceries, washing your truck, whatever it is. And you'll hear that faint just, and you're like, what the hell is it? You look up and there's a drone like right overhead. And now you're starting to go, okay, what's going on? Is this person like casing my house? Are they just being annoying? You know, what's going on? Because it's like, there's really no, I mean, there are rules and regulations, but do you ever see anybody really enforcing those, so to say?
It depends. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like getting around the regulatory when we were, well, let me rephrase that. We weren't getting around regulatory. Just having to navigate that at Free Fly was a thing. But the problem was that it wasn't particularly well defined yet because, you know, government speed plus here's this thing that's so new that is so easy access for people. And then it turns into like, well, they're having to really install things as they go. But what is also hurt by this is that there's already such a negative public perception by how this all started, where like people see a drone, regardless if they're, unless they're like kids and don't know any better or are like unaware, like young adults, like most people get uneasy at the first sight of one. You know, like, and they're like, especially like you're talking about, where all, like you kind of start hunting around and you're trying to like figure out what's going on, you know, and that's like, I think that's a perfectly natural reaction, but it doesn't help because you just immediately default to like, oh, this person's doing something ridiculous.
I mean, like it's one thing you can kind of tell.
Like it's an invasion of privacy too.
Well, that's what I was gonna get at. It's one thing if like you see a drone and it's just kind of like just cruising, like you're like, okay, they're getting like some like B-roll or they're just like flying around, just probably trying to make a cool video, whatever. But when you get it and all of a sudden it just stops right over where you're at and just sits there for like 5 minutes, you're starting to go like, all right, what are you like? What's going on? The fact that you got to just be chilling in one spot. It'd be one thing if you were, like I said, if you're just cruising around, because we see it all the time when we go up to Lake of the Pines for 4th of July. They have a killer fireworks show over or off the bridge and / dam. And there's a handful of drones in the sky when it's going on. And they post the video from that point of view to YouTube. So it's a pretty badass, like, you know, shot because you're seeing it from a totally different view from how you're viewing it when you're sitting down, you know, at the lake level. And so I think that's totally fine. And, you know, there's really like no invasion of privacy. They're just, you know, a different view. They're doing it for entertainment purposes. But like when you're just cruising around neighborhoods and then just coming to a dead stop over people's property is kind of like ridiculous.
I'd imagine. Yeah, this was something too we had to be really careful about here. Oh yeah, absolutely. And so then imagine too when you see something like industrial overhead. Like this was something where it was like with like flight tests and stuff like that. That was a thing, and it was like that had to be away from people because it was just like, God, there would have been phone calls every day. Like otherwise, like you had to work to see it a little bit. But I mean, for this exact reason, the company was like, oh well, we need to be at a sanctioned airport. Like we need to own this because otherwise this is going to be a problem forever. And so yeah, that's a whole thing.
And honestly, I think until they fix the I don't know how to say it. Like until they fix like the interface for drones, I just don't know how you can prevent like the stuff that happens. I can't tell you. I've seen more people just doing whatever, like they're using their drones to get footage. Like I said, I watch a handful of people on YouTube that do like that overland adventure stuff, and like they try to like film, you know, their Jeep, their van, their truck, whatever it is that they're overlanding in, and they're trying to like, you know, get, I guess, action and rolling shots as they're like going through trail. And then they'll even say it. They'll be like, "Oh, everything was great." Then all of a sudden, my drone just didn't respond to anything, and it just crashed. Now I'm hiking through the woods trying to find it.
Yeah, that's true too. You know, this would have been a really good question or line of questioning for Haley, for like the times to, you know, pull one out to use or not for drones. Like, what would you recommend to people? Because I think that there's a lot of people where it's like a lot of it is just like creativity, interest. Oh, hey, I can go get a picture I've never been able to get before, and then whoops.
Yeah.
Right. Because there was something that just was not thought about or whatever. And sometimes just haphazardly, especially with how new drones are. Yeah, that still is the case where like sometimes something would just go wrong.
Well,
Depending
there's all
on
that
what you bought.
legislation right now involving DJI too.
It's a whole rabbit hole.
So that's
Well, we even used the
yeah,
drones at
that's
work.
wild.
Like we were so at our last project we were flying chunks of stone over, basically it was the fire pit. We were flying it over the house. And it was such a badass, you know, event that the landscaper had their I guess one of the guys on the crew knows how to fly a drone, so he had them flying it to get some footage just to kind of use it as kind of like promotional, like, look, we can do this kind of stuff for your job too. And like I said, there's a lot of times where drones, you know, the footage that they can produce without having to actually like physically fly like a helicopter or whatever,
it's amazing.
Have a production crew. It's it's you know, really helpful. And then there's also take it into like agriculture. You know, there's companies that go out to like farms and whatnot, and they'll sit there and they'll use it, if not the actual crew that, you know, runs the farm, to see what's going on with their crops, to see where animals are, to see fence lines, whatever. And it just speeds up time where you're not spending or sending somebody out there on a quad or truck or by foot, whatever, hiking through stuff. You can get a big old bird's eye view and kind of see what's going on. And then
I think they're even pollinating with them now too.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, there's like anything, there's a time and place for it. It's just, I mean, like I said, my whole thing is just like the user face of it, or just like the technology. If they can get it down to being a little more tried and true without the hiccups where like it'll just like not respond and like fall out of the sky, that's I think that would be a huge leap in, I guess, drone productivity.
Here's the caveat to that though. Because like all the use cases you're talking about, like that's where our, like that basically became our customer base post COVID, because cinema had just shut down. And so this was, especially with all the stuff looming with DJI, where it was like, okay, these are contracts like you can't renew anymore because of government things. So like this all, you know, flooded to companies like ours. But the thing was that we weren't prepared for, nobody was really prepared for, though, was that it is very easy to become a drone pilot for industrial purposes. Extremely easy. And the thing that you do not have to do is and this is the thing where like, this does matter. I understand that people don't want to really admit this, but this does matter, because I've seen various instances where people could have really gotten hurt or did get hurt. And you do not have to do a proof of proficiency to fly a drone commercially. You have to pass a knowledge test, but no one is sitting there watching you do something, giving you your license. And so these are not simple machines. Like, to do what you're talking about, like, requires drone plus integration. Here's a really cool example of this, and I don't think this is privileged, but this is something the Forest Service does to control fires, like for controlled burns, is they'll have a drone that drops these little dragon eggs that ignite, right? and that has to be operated from the ground, right? There's the drone, you can fly a pre-planned mission and everything, but you have to trigger the drop. You know, the setup for flying one of these for any use case, I mean, is a whole thing. Plus, you know, you need some sort of camera feed a lot of the time, and you know, people at least want FPV if you're up in the mountains and stuff like that. That is a hell of a learning curve to learn to manage, even as like a 2-person team, and especially with like construction stuff like that. It was so new. That was hard, where it was like you really were like, people do not understand the grasp of what it is they're actually flying. And that was a whole thing we had to learn too. So it's like it is a bit of a two-way street, where it's like sometimes, yeah, things did just happen, especially early days, and depending on how much you spent on one. But also too, that is cited as a reason where like people were not knowledgeable enough flying him to actually know what happened or what went wrong. And so they're just like, oh, I just lost control. It wasn't doing what I wanted it to do anymore or whatever. And then something like that happens. It happens.
Yeah, because not all of them are user friendly like the DJI ones, where you know they'll come back to you and everything, and you know, because I mean, so many that it, like anything RC, like there's so many that guys like cobble together and you know custom.
But you have to get
proficient
enough
features.
Yeah, but you have to get proficient enough to not rely on the having to come back. It's like flying a plane. It's like flying a plane and losing, you know, like, oh, like ILS is down. You have to fly it in manually and land it. Like you still got to know how to do that. Right.
Sure.
You know, so that's the thing that I think gets missed. And, you know, again, it's like it is ignorance, and, you know, people sometimes just have to learn the hard way. And I get that, but it's both things can be true, I guess.
Yeah. Sure. Didn't you add it back to what Chris was saying? Didn't you have another instance where you were in an event, Adam, and the Rangers shut it down?
Oh, we had the So Chris from Scale by Chris, he used to do like an event out at Folsom Lake, and it was like one of those, it was like very like wishy-washy, because it's like people have been going out there, you group together, you know, you meet up with like 20 of your friends, you go out there and run, and like they don't say anything. And then like there's other times you go and do that, and then they're like, what are you doing? Is this a group? Is this like what, you know, and all this stuff. And we did have that the one time. We actually did. The Ranger came over, and he was and this one was more of like one of those, he wasn't cool, like he wasn't like kind of like trying to like reason with you and kind of see what's going on. He was straight up like big dick swinging. I have a badge. F you. You listen to what I have to say. And that was it. There was like no talking about it. And I think it goes, you know, two ways. So it's like, you kind of like, and I've learned this just through like the short 3.5, 4 years of being a superintendent on a construction site. You deal with people every day, and they're, you know, they could have woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You know, they're going through something, you know, in life, they're whatever, you know, so it's like, you kind of get back what you put out. So it's like, if you just start all hostile, can't really like, you know, you're just like, hey, you know, what are you guys doing over here? This looks like, you know, whatever. Yeah, you're going to get pushback, because that's the vibe you're getting out. Now, if you come over and you're totally like, hey guys, what's going on? All right, I understand what you're doing. It's cool, you know, but hey, do know that we require a permit for this if you have over a certain amount of people, you know, blah, 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 blah. Be a little more educational about it, kind of like being like your friend, like kind of like informing you, like it goes a long way. And, you know, so it's like, I think you can handle these situations better if like you have the proper people just talking to whoever, you know. And like I said, that instance, the guy was a total dick, wrote up Chris for violation, not having a permit, this, that, and the other. Basically gave him a citation, and I forget what it was. It was like a $200 and something citation. And you know, the cool thing though, this is the one beauty of, you know, the RC community. He put it out there to just kind of like answer what was going on, because a lot of people had asked like, hey, we saw the Rangers come over, what did they say? So he just put it out there, and he just said, I got hit with a fine. It is what it is. You know, I just probably won't be doing an event there ever again, just because I'm not going to deal with this again. And the community came together, and I think everybody donated. I mean, easily covered the fine within like hours. So
that's cool.
Which is cool because,
That's rad.
RC's have always been really good about that.
Yeah. So it's, and it just goes to kind of, like I said, kind of show you that, you never know what you're going to get. And I guess that's where, and it kind of stumbles back to that whole video with the whole Fresno incident, is it's like, that's what makes it hard for that barrier of trying to figure out how to do the right thing, because it's like you hear these stories about this place shutting you down or this place requiring some crazy permit, this place, this, and then it makes it so hard to where they're like, we don't want to play by your rules because your rules are too hard to follow. So we're just going to do it anyways and see if we get caught. And you're kind of creating that by not having like that, like I said, like that that intermediate person, or, your liaison between the city or the state park or whatever it is, and, the person trying to do something, whether it be RC, skateboard, book club, whatever. And, I think that there should, there needs to be some sort of easier way to navigate this. But where that starts, your guess is as good as mine.
I think that there's just it's always immediately displayed as some sort of us versus them thing, and that's just always the wrong foot to start it all off on. Like, I feel like that's the rhetoric that happens every time, is it's just like, oh, like they're like, okay, like we have an enemy. Like,
yeah. But, and that stems from so many things. I think that also just stems from like the just like almost the entire, I guess, premise that everybody has nowadays with just life in general. It's like, everything's out to screw you. So I have a chip on my shoulder, and that's how they go into dealing with stuff. That's why
no tact at all.
Yeah. That's why I had said, I've learned just from like, pretty much like the job that I do now, you get what you usually get back what you put out. Like, you just start coming in like a total asshole, they're going to treat you the same way. You come in with a little bit of like respect and dignity, and you're kind of like, hey, I get it, yada, 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 side with them, but then say, hey, this is why we need to do it this way. And you get a lot better response out of it. And then, everyone's happy in the end. I mean, you still get the freak occasions where you try to come in like that.
Just do your best to act professional no matter what. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. It's not a guarantee.
If you act professionally, but it's just, it's not going to be perfect every time, but it's just going to make things typically so much easier, and it puts you kind of in that position of being the bigger person and stuff too. I mean, I personally have had one situation where we had an event and I didn't realize there was a burn ban, and we talked about barbecuing at a park, and somebody had saw it on Facebook and called the police. And so the police showed up, and they're like, oh yeah, somebody said you guys were barbecuing or something. And I was like, no, we're not, because I heard there was a burn ban and stuff. He's like, oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure. So that was really the only situation that I ran into. As far as like the general public goes, with the club that we had this new influx of people that just didn't quite get it. They were younger, and this is the same group that was posted up with the loud music and everything. And we were at an event that had very limited parking, and they had brought some bashers, and they were running bashers around in the parking lot and on the road and stuff. And like, to the point of like, people were like waiting to park, and they're just like still just driving in the road, like in the way of people that are like trying to like pull up and park and sightsee and hike and stuff. And so I had to say something to the club about it, obviously, and just be like, you guys, you can't be doing this. I mean, like, this is not the look that we want for the club. Like, we're doing crawler stuff. that's it. We're not trying to be a nuisance. We're trying to be out of the way and, you know, inconspicuous. And we've got you guys doing donuts and jumping and bashing in the parking lot and holding up traffic while you're acting like idiots. And, you know, and so I was the bad guy and I was the asshole. And, you know, I don't want anyone to have any fun. Like it wasn't received at all. And eventually it was one of the reasons why I just threw in the towel with the club, because I mean, it was just dumbasses that just did not understand how to act in public, you know? And so those really are the only two situations that I had where, you know, I had to kind of like step in one situation with our own guys. And then, you know, the other was obviously just dealing with the police. So
it's not understood.
Thing. But that's all I ran into.
It's not understood like this at all, but it is as simple as that. The deck is, like I said earlier, the deck is already so stacked against you. People go into it thinking it's neutral and it's a fair fight and that like you're not going to have any problems or that, you know, like whatever. And it's just not the case. Like you're on the razor's edge of anybody who sees something they do not like.
Yeah.
You can have any opinion you want about people's hair triggerness on calling in something or whatever. But the reality is you do have to, you know, have some sense of like personal responsibility of not inviting that opportunity. Yeah, I get it. That sucks. It's not as fun, but it's what you have to do. It's just like, it's just not rules any of us made, but the rules we had to play by.
These aren't when you're on public land like this, it's not your right. It's a privilege, and privileges can be taken away, you know, and that's the hard part, is getting these knuckleheads to understand that it is a privilege. Like you don't have anything to stand on at a public park saying, well, I can be here and drive my RC car or go crawling or whatever, when, you know, that's just not the case. If you're not, especially if you're like smoking weed in public and driving RC cars at a city park, like, I mean, that's just asking to get it shut down for everybody at that point, you know? I mean, it's just common sense, you know? I mean, it's just like public perception is so huge with trying to keep these places open and stay in the city's good grace and stuff. And just so many RC guys are just such dumbasses and don't understand that. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, I stopped doing anything with any kind of groups of people at all. You know, like I'll go with like one person and go crawling, or the majority of the time I just go by myself now, you know, because it's just, it's more, it's a way of being cautious and trying to keep these places open and keep us welcome at them. You know, I mean, it's meeting up with, you know, 10 of your buddies and everybody's vaping and smoking cigarettes and shit and being obnoxious. And, you know, I mean, it's just, that is so bad with the public and stuff. And it just takes one Karen to call the city and just be like, these RC guys were smoking weed at the park, you know, and then it's shut down and ruined for everybody, you know, and they don't understand that. They think that this is America, I can do whatever I want, you know. It's just, it's not the case, you know. It's just, you have to put on a good face for the public with this sort of stuff to be able to share these spaces. So
you brought up an one part about that I wonder if it's like going to be a geography thing. California ban flavor tobacco products. I've noticed the vaping has dwindled down really quickly. Like there's not a lot of people who vape anymore, because now it's not so easy. You can't just go to 7-Eleven. You can't just go to the liquor store and buy refills or flavors. You have to actually order it online, or you have to know of a smoke shop.
Weird.
It carries it. So it's actually, it's kind of dwindled a lot. Like I remember when that was like a total like huge thing, and like almost everybody was vaping. Now it's like a very rare thing, at least like I said, around here. It could be totally different, you know, in different parts of California.
Where we are, you can get them at like any gas station.
That's a
like
really
AM.
Yeah.
And
think
RC
you can
guys
get them
vape a lot.
I think the only cross-selling here, I'd have to double check, but I think you can get them at liquor stores here.
Because like the same thing goes on with tobacco products. So like you can't even get, there's no more flavored tobacco in the state of California.
Right.
It's all
Really?
original. It's all original.
Smoke
flavor.
or chew?
Chew and smoke.
Really?
You can't get menthol. You can't get menthol cigarettes. Anything with like a mint flavor, it still follows under the flavored, which is supposed to be in the state of California's eyes. You're gearing it towards kids and getting kids hooked on cigarettes or tobacco. So they've eliminated it, and they've kind of realized that if you just leave it the raw, nasty flavor that it is,
nobody wants it.
Exactly. So that's like that's our driver to get people from doing it. So it's very interesting. So because I know I got a handful.
You want to keep
friends.
kids from chewing, give them Copenhagen the first time.
Yeah. I mean, because I got a handful of friends that chew, and they're big time, like they're wintergreen. And then once that ban went into effect, they were trying to figure out what they were going to do, because they're like, that is my dip of choice. I don't like, original or straight. And some of them, they just had to adapt, and now they moved on to the straight because that's all they can get. And I have a couple of friends that actually
put extract in it.
I got some friends that straight quit.
Huh. See, if it was that big a deal to me, I would just get like peppermint extract or something and put in your can.
Now we're the enablement and peer pressuring section of the show. Here's what I would do. Yes. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. This is like Jay's
because we used to put like whiskey and shit in Copenhagen and stuff in school. Like I lived in a very rural town when I went to high school. And I mean, like we drank beer at school, we chewed at school. I mean, we did everything you weren't supposed to do. So I mean, like we were putting whiskey in chew. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So like anything to get.
Yeah, that still happened at the school I went to, and we didn't go to a rural school.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I couldn't tell you how many kids used to they used to throw a little bit of vodka in their Gatorade, and then they'd be drinking Gatorade. It's at school, like no big deal. And then they do the same thing. They'd saturate their chew with alcohol, and then dip it when no one's looking.
Yeah. Them were the days.
So
yeah, we used to get these big insulated mugs from 7-Eleven and fill them full of Coors Light. Just sit in the commons in the morning, 7 a.m. drinking beer in high school.
But yeah,
which you shouldn't do.
No. Well, it's actually, if you want, I mean, like I said, this is all just speculation from what I'm seeing just in my area. It's actually quite interesting. I've noticed that the generation that's of the drinking age now, so like I don't know, Jay, you might be able to attest to this, maybe. Travis, I don't know if you ever dealt with this, but like my generation, or at least the kids I hung out with, we started drinking beer and getting into whatever late high school. So it's like like you had a buddy who worked somewhere that was able to boost a couple bottles, or you had your buddy's brothers or sisters or whatever was of drinking age, so they'd buy stuff and you'd buy it off them, and yada yada yada, and all that stuff. Now I've noticed it's like even the kids, when they become like drinking age, they have like no desire to go to the bars. They have no desire to go get something to drink. They're just kind of like, and I don't know if that's like, I don't know where that comes from. Like, I don't know what stems that. I mean, there still are like the party crowd. Like, I could not believe I went to a family graduation party over Memorial Day weekend. I could not believe how much alcohol she consumed, and she's 22 years old. I was like, I know grown guys that don't even drink that much. I'm like, holy crap.
That's crazy.
And it's like, there still are those ones that like, they get wild, but I'm just noticing that it's
dedicated.
not, it's not as like widespread as when I was growing up.
No, there's definitely some truth to that. Because the thing here, like, I guess I would be kind of that age. So the thing is that bars traditionally and other places like that are just not particularly fun places to go. Honestly, like, if I'm going to go drink, I want to go kind of do something too, or be at a spot that's kind of neat. We couldn't really do that in Seattle because what I realized, like, for me, and what like works really well here too, is like there's a lot of like rooftop bars and there's a lot of like really open spaces and stuff like that. We didn't have the weather to permit that in Washington, but when I went to Philly, that was something I noticed a lot there too. And I was like, okay, that's actually pretty fun. And then it's like you go with your friends or whoever, you know, like coworkers at the time, and you know, you go and check out these places and stuff. And then, you know, you find like the odd bar, and again, that's like kind of underground and cool, but it's not like, it's never thought about as like a routine. It's just like, oh, we're just like walking around now, let's just see what we can find in South Philly or wherever we are, and you know, whatever, and that's it. Because it's just not as fun otherwise. Like, honestly, if I'm going to go anywhere where it's like I'd love to sit down and have a beer or something, it's like I want to go watch a game somewhere. Like, that's like my reason for going out and doing it. That's it. Like, you know, I can't watch it at home or whatever. And it's like, then it's like fun because then like everyone else is there to see it too, and the atmosphere supports that. And that's like, that's more what it's about. Yeah, I don't think there's the like people. I feel like when especially me, but like, you know, when my age and everything, like turning 21, like when people were not lining up to go to bars or whatever, it was just like, I don't have to do as much work now to drink. Okay. Right. Like, that's it.
God, that's like, man, I mean, like, we partied all through high school. Like, as soon as we were of drinking age, like, it was out to the bars every Friday and Saturday night, like, you know, clubs. And I mean,
yeah,
like,
I don't know.
dance
I mean,
clubs, strip clubs, sports bars. I mean, God, we went everywhere. I mean, it was like probably I don't know. I mean, probably from the time I was 21 to like 30, 32 was just going out, and like partying was like a big part of recreation every weekend. But I also had, you know, I hung out with a terrible crowd too, though.
There's also like nothing else to do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there was never like, you know, hardly ever like concerts or shows, or, you know, we didn't live in an area where there was sports games or Supercross, or, you know, there was just nothing there. So I mean, it was like, that's like all you did was go and get fucked up on the weekends and stuff. I mean, and so, you know, I mean, there was like that was I don't know. that was drinking and partying was a pretty big part of life for the better part of a decade, I would say. And then plus, I mean, through like probably with high school, I think like junior and senior year, I think is when I started being an idiot, you know, like freshman, sophomore, you're still kind of a kid and nervous and stuff like that. And then I don't know what happens when you hit like your junior year, but you're kind of just in like fuck it mode. And you, like you guys were saying, you know, some older people and stuff, and they start buying you alcohol and stuff like that. So, I mean,
yeah, I think this wasn't like, it happened when I was in high school, but it wasn't like the thing that it would have been for you guys. Like, yeah, there were like on occasion there were parties and stuff like that, but like Stanwood didn't have a lot of places you could do that. It was going to be like whoever lived up by like Lake Ketchum or whatever it was, you know, that just had some space doing stuff like that. I know they did like the Fight Club thing for a while. That was pretty funny. And but we also
that's great.
Yeah, it was a short-lived, but relatively short-lived but entertaining saga. But it is worth mentioning that we also had a lot of sobering experiences because opiates were a huge problem for us. So that was a thing. Like,
yeah, it wasn't that way when I was a kid. So
yeah, we had
all we had was weed and alcohol. That was it. I mean, that's all it was when we were kids.
that is a very like strong key thing that I think is actually scaring a lot of people from dealing with stuff. Cause like we've had this talk with Kyle because, you know, he's 22 and, you know, when he was in college, like we're kind of like, hey, like, you know, be mindful of what's going on, you know, only, you know, if you're going to drink, you know, now that, you know, you're 21, like just make sure you're with people you absolutely can trust. You're with your friends. You're not like just like with a bunch of random people because, you know, who knows what you're getting. Like, you know, somebody can totally like, you know, slip you something and, you know, so it's just crazy because with opioids and, fentanyl, that whole issue going on right now, I think it is actually scaring some people from like, you know, doing anything because they're like, I don't know what I'm getting.
I mean, it was a little like it was more of an undertone. Like it wasn't like this was a big like, oh, like we got to be careful, but it was like it wasn't uncommon for us to, you know, 2 kids or so would die a year. Like it just like that's just the kind of thing, right? Which is probably not terribly uncommon, but like, you know, it was weird there because like we had that like death barn and everything. You know, it was just that kind of thing happened a lot. And so I
It was
feel
all
like
drunk
that,
driving when I was
there were a couple of
going
those for
through that
sure.
age.
I think there were at least 2 of those that I can think of.
I mean, most of the deaths when I was in high school were from drunk driving, that or suicide. Drunk driving and suicide was probably the 2 biggest things.
Which
But,
honestly,
like,
even today is probably still
probably
at
the
the top
biggest,
of the list. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have pills and stuff then though. Like I said, I mean, there was weed and there was alcohol, and the parties that we would go to once in a great while would be at somebody's house if their parents were gone. And then the majority of the time was off on like Forest Service of BLM land and have a bonfire, you know, and somebody would, you know, meet up and open all the doors on their car and listen to music, and everybody'd stand around a fire and get messed up. I mean, that was really about it.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to what happens now, it was all pretty harmless.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
Definitely safer. I mean, there'd be fights and stuff, but like you didn't have to worry about like, you know, hardcore drugs or anything like that. That just wasn't really a thing where we were.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
How did we even get off on this?
I have no idea.
I think it had.
I don't even know now.
We were just talking about. I think we kind of just got to a point where we just started talking about social responsibility in our
It got it,
yeah,
because
I
what
think
happened
that's
was we
what
were
it
talking
was.
about the how you interact with authority and this, that, and the other, and
That's
then
so funny.
I think
okay,
that's what
yeah.
started the whole like, yeah, like, you know, in school when we did it, you know, and then that's where it all
Felt so
went down.
seamless.
Yeah.
Yeah, seamless transition to drugs and alcohol.
As it usually
But,
is.
Yes.
But we're hitting what we have is recorded as 140 or hour 48 minutes.
Yeah, probably about time to call it.
Closing thoughts,
especially since we've kind of wandered off subject a little bit.
Yeah,
which is what we do.
Yeah, but
what we do.
Yeah, next one we'll get a little more back on RC.
Yeah,
this is
I'm
also
actually really excited for the next one just because it can do so much more now with this.
Jay's got a new toy.
Yeah,
he wants to play with it.
This is cool. I like it.
Well, hopefully everyone else enjoys it as much as you do.
Yeah, hopefully. No, it's like we've just kind of like
nice.
ushered into this new era where like everything's like a little bit more polished now and looks nicer, and we can have more features and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's definitely kind of like got me more excited about it again and like renewed my enthusiasm for the show.
Yeah, we'll do a show more than once a season now, maybe.
Yeah. The fall episode, the winter episode.
Yeah, it's like grand tour specials.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it's petered out to, from
That's
weekly to seasonal.
Just 6 weeks. Yeah. Well, cool. No, I'm good. I think we covered everything. It wasn't much, obviously.
Thanks. so too. Well, thank you again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.
See you.
See it.